Hello everyone. Today we present our final team project, Vulnerability Management and Mitigation Plan under Cyber 502. Our objective was to assess, remediate, and mitigate vulnerabilities in simulated secure network environment. The team includes Rajesh, Sajmal, Vijay, and Subrat. Let's begin. The objective of our project was to ensure a small business network to be secured. For this, we used Nessus Essentials on Kali Linux VM to scan and assess vulnerabilities in the internal network sandbox, which are up and running at IP address 192.168.105.0/24 subnet. The focus was on identifying critical vulnerabilities across sandbox, virtual machines, and reducing overall risks. Key changes were made to the environment to enable Nessus scanners are firewall, where necessary ports were opened, user accounts where limited play accounts were created. Tool installation like Nessus Essential was deployed on Linux VM. The scan results reveals several critical and high severity vulnerabilities which we systematically address in future slides. Let's look at virtual network setup next. This slide illustrates cybersecurity lab setup. As shown, the network is segmented into distinct environments like router and PFSense, where PFSense is upstreaming on virtual network, management, and sandbox. The setup allows controlled vulnerability assessment while isolated critical systems. The Kali Linux machine hosting the Nessus scanner was positioned in the management segment to effectively scan systems in the sandbox. With the network security structure is in place, we move to the next phase, scanning the sandbox network to identify all active hosts and their vulnerabilities. This host discovery phase was crucial in identifying all active machines within a network. Using Nessus, we scanned 192.168.105.0/24 subnet and found multiple vulnerable systems, including servers running on Apache, Tomcat, Bind, and Unreal IRC. Each of hosts presented unique vulnerabilities, some of which were very critical and require immediate actions. We use this discovery to prioritize the classification of our findings. After the discovering of active hosts, SS provided a detailed scan results which highlighted the severity levels of vulnerability across the network. Let's look at the snapshot of the finding in the next slide. This slide presents snapshot of our scan, which is raw format. It highlights the severity level of identifying vulnerabilities across the different hosts. The critical vulnerabilities such as remote code execution in Apache and Drupal and backdoors in Bind and Unreal IRCD demanded immediate remediation. The snapshot served as a baseline for analyzing risks and developing our mitigation plan. The detailed results guided our actions to remediate, mitigate, or temporarily accept the risks also. The scan results were made possible by carefully configuring the Nessus scanner to function effectively in the environment. Let's discuss what were the key enabled in the setup. This slide talks about the deployment of Nessus scanner, require several key configuration changes to ensure its proper functioning. First, firewall rules were updated to allow scanning across the sandbox network, particularly enabling the TCP port 8834 for Nessus web interface access and scanning related protocols like SSH, RDP, and SMB. Next was user account, where appropriate permissions were created on the target machine to allow Nessus to authenticate and retrieve vulnerability data. Finally, DNS configuration were adjusted to resolve targets host names effectively, ensuring the accurate scan results were retrieved. These changes collectively enable Nessus to conduct comprehensive scans across all the systems in the secured network. With this foundation, we proceed to address the vulnerabilities of the system, focusing on critical to high risk issues first. Next, my colleague Subhath will discuss about different types of vulnerabilities. Over to you, Subhath. Thank you.
Thank you, Rajesh, for your presentations. Now here I'm going to discuss about the top 10 vulnerabilities that were identified. So this overview of vulnerabilities across various systems like web servers, FTP servers, and network services. Examples include Apache vulnerabilities, ProFTPD mode copy issues, and PNC server password weaknesses. There's some recommended actions such as remediate critical vulnerabilities, mitigate high risk, and accept low risk ones. Okay, in this slide on the left hand side, you can see we have defined this, identified this top 10 vulnerabilities such as Apache 2.2x like this, then ProFTTD, then blind cell backdoor detection like this. And then these are the summary that we mentioned on the right side, summary by applications. As you can see, the summary of actions. So for remediate, we have selected 5 vulnerabilities which are very much critical. And then for mitigate, we have selected 3 vulnerabilities which has the risk is very high. And for accept, we have selected 2 vulnerabilities whose risk is low. This slide is planned for flow PPD mode copy vulnerability highlights an FTP server vulnerability allowing unauthorized file access. Key impacts include data breaches and exposure of sensitivity configurations. Mitigations involves restricting file permissions and upgrading to secure versions. Here you can see the CVSS score is high, which is 8.8. Risk level is high. In this slide, the plan for blind cell backdoor discuss a backdoor vulnerability in blind DNS server that enables remote access. It has critical risk highlighted with suggested mitigations like restricting access and updating software to secure configurations. Here you can see the CVSS score is critical, that is 9.8. Risk level is also critical. Now, the plan for Drupal core module deserialization RCE focuses on critical remote code execution vulnerability in the Drupal CMS core module. It also mitigations include disabling unused modules, auditing third-party plugins, and updating to the latest secure versions. Here the CVSS score is critical, that is 9.9. The risk level is high. This slide shows the plan for Apache Tomcat GhostCat SGP connector request injections, explains vulnerabilities in Apache Tomcat SGP connector allowing the file disclosure and remote code execution. This slide shows the plan for Unreal IRCD backdoor detection, which highlights a pre-installed backdoor in Unreal IRCD leading to full remote control by attackers that suggest monitoring logs, blocking unnecessary traffic, and reinstalling clean software versions. Here you can see the CBSS score is critical, which is 10.0. Risk level is also critical. In this slide, it shows the plan for Drupal database abstraction SQL injection addresses SQL injection vulnerability in Drupal CMS that risk data manipulation and theft. The mitigation strategies include implementing web application firewall WAF, sanitizing user inputs, and applying security patches. The CVSS score is critical, that is 9.9. Risk level is high. So here you can see the mitigations as well remediation details. Thank you.
Thanks, Subrat. Now let's dive into mitigation processes. Addressing vulnerabilities requires the right balance between automation and manual processes. Automation helps us perform tasks consistently and at scale. Tools like Nessus can run ongoing vulnerability scans, while platforms like Ansible or WSUS automate patch deployments across multiple systems. Even disabling weak SSL TLS ciphers across systems can be done quickly using scripts. However, some tasks like reviewing backdoor alerts or updating configurations on legacy systems require manual intervention. Critical thinking is key for ensuring these changes align with policies. By combining automation and manual efforts, we achieve speed and accuracy for repetitive tasks while retaining human judgment for complex decisions. This ensures faster detection, policy driven implementation, and continuous monitoring. Not every vulnerability can be resolved immediately. Some low risk issues are temporarily accepted due to resource constraints. For instance, we have temporarily accepted TLS 1 or 1.1 for non-critical services, while planning the migration to TLS 1.2 or above. Similarly, weak VNC passwords are accepted for internal systems backed by close monitoring. Why accept these risks? The likelihood of exploitation is low and remediation demands resources that outweighs the current risk. These are temporary measures and we are actively working on permanent fixes while ensuring continuous monitoring and security. Now, I will hand it over to my fellow classmate Vijay to discuss risk changes and our key learnings.
Thank you, Sajmal, for your valuable insight on automation versus manual process and temporarily accepted items in network. After our vulnerability assessment and remediation, our network risk profile has significantly improved from the critical to the manageable levels. This includes remote code execution vulnerabilities in Apache and Drupal backdoor detections in critical systems like Linux servers, weak configurations such as outdated TLS protocols, and misconfigured service, allowing potential unauthorized access. After implementing our remediation and mitigation strategies, we have successfully reduced overall risk from the critical to moderate. This was achieved through remediating critical vulnerabilities, including update Apache and Drupal versions to remove RCE risk and resolving backdoor issues. Mitigating medium risk vulnerabilities by disabling SSL and TLS protocols and enforcing SMB signing to reduce man in middle attacks. Implementing proactive measures like real time monitoring systems and ongoing vulnerability scanning. Now, let's discuss about lesson learned and our conclusion. Regular vulnerability scanning using tools like Nessus proved critical roles in revealing critical risk and prioritizing remediation efforts. Automation played a significant role in streamlining detection and minimizing manual effort. Configuration hardening, such as implementing secure protocol like TLS 1.2, 1.3, and SMB signing, effectively reduce our exposure to attack. Additionally, the use of monitoring tools also can enhance our real-time visibility into potential threats. The overall impact of our efforts was significant. We successfully addressed the top vulnerabilities through remediation and mitigation, reducing our network risk from critical to moderate. This has resulted in more resilient network with ongoing monitoring and update process in place. In conclusion, we have made substantial progress in improving our network security. We have transitioned from critical risk state to the moderate one by addressing key vulnerabilities in Apache, Drupal, and other systems, as well as resolving issues with backdoor and weak protocols. Moving forward, our path to maintaining and further improving our security postures, including conducting a regular Nessus scan, and implementing robust patch management system, implementing advanced intrusion detection for real-time monitoring systems, and reviewing and updating configuration periodically to maintain our security stance. By continuing this practice, we can ensure that our networks remain secure and resilient against the emerging threats. Thank you very much.